In the independent narrative world, the ultra low budget narrative world of web series, pilots, feature films, short films, and even music videos now have been clumped into that ultra low budget narrative world category because music videos just haven't had a decent budget in decades, and maybe you can blame it on platforms like Spotify or whatever, but the music industry has really been hurt. In the 90s, working on a music video was just as big as working on a big union commercial. It really was, but it's not like that nowadays. So something that happened was Marianne was working, being a producer's assistant on a series of independent films. Over and over, she noticed a pattern that the cinematographers, some of them weren't getting paid at all. Or if they were, it was just enough to have their kit covered. And now this is the crazy thing, right? And it's like, but everyone else is getting paid, right? Oh yeah, everyone else is getting paid. So, welcome. We're going to start a new series. It's called At the Desk with JP. These are all the things that are always on my brain that I've been kind of toiling over ever since back in 2017 of making that weird, abnormal transition of spending over 2 decades in front of the camera and then sliding behind the camera in 2017. And that's just a very odd thing. You don't see that too often. However, Giovanni Ribisi, a very talented, way 10 million times more successful actor than I have ever even dreamed of being, and he recently has taken on the role of director of photography. So that's really cool to see someone of that status making that jump like that, because you don't see a big, huge actor like that going to cinematography land. It's cool to see. There was something that happened to me. I got shook. My world got shook going from the world of actor and then jumping on as a crew member, specifically always in the camera department, and primarily being a cinematographer. Now, being an actor, you are also still a freelance actor. And for those of you that don't know, I was a member of the Screen Actors Guild. So I worked both union jobs and non-union jobs. You can be this thing called FICOR. Because I know like in the crew department, it's not weird, like you don't get shamed or threatened to be kicked out of the local 600. I don't think so anyways when you work a non-union job. Whereas the Screen Actors Guild, they will literally shame you to the point where if they find out that you're working a lot of non-union jobs, specifically non-union commercials, and this is where we're going with this, like they can literally shit can you out of SAG. They can ban you from the guild for life. And it's like a gang, and what's funny is that the Screen Actors Guild, that's not even an actual union. It's not. It's technically not a union, right? So that's the weirdest thing about it. And for those of you that don't know, if you're totally clueless, theatrical does mean film and television, okay? I just tell you all that to make the point of living in the actor world for literally over 2 decades, working as a freelance person, a freelance artist, it's no mystery coming from the actor world, right? I've been working under W-9s since I was a teenager. You learn about write-offs and all of that, right? There was no mystery to that going from being an actor to the camera side. That's not what I'm talking about. Like the amount of situations that you find yourself in being a freelance crew member in the non-union realm is gnarly to me, to the point where, you'd be on jobs and, you're wrapping up the gear and you're just kind of really dragging your ass, you're dragging your feet and you're looking at whoever you have there working with you and you're all just kind of like twiddling your thumbs. You're like putting your gear away as slowly as possible because nobody has mentioned payment yet. No one has come by and, handed you your little envelope. One of my guys will come up and go, "So are we getting paid on this fucking job or what, Justin?" The abundance of people out there that will just, really be weird about money and when it comes time to pay you. And in the beginning, you don't know any better to write up your own service agreement and send that and email that in advance and be like, "I'm not showing up unless this is read and signed and sent back to me." And then that way you have something at least contractually binding. Pretty easy nowadays with all your little ChatGPT stuff running around there. It'd be very simple for you guys just to have it write you up a very simple legal service agreement. And it was also pretty mind-blowing to learn of the thing called the Net 90. That was wild to me. You know what I'm talking about here. The Net 90, the Net 60 thing that exists in the crew world is just mind-blowing. Even in the unions, freelance jobs. It just seems weird that that is like a social norm, because I was like, this isn't normal. Why are we waiting 90 days to get paid when the video's already out and they're monetizing off of it? People are making money off of this and we're still sitting around waiting to get paid. And this is not just small jobs. There's huge jobs that this happens on. Disney job, Beyonce Lemonade was one of those net 90 things. It's crazy to me that that has become a standard. So that was one of the things that rocked my universe. So I think as someone that's new, don't forget that you are a business, whether you are an S Corp, which is smarter, in my opinion, than being an LLC. I'm speaking to you as someone that is both. Understand that you are a business, right? You don't have to agree to any of these terms, these net 90s, the net 60s, and all of this stuff. And people will say, well, don't you want to work? And it's like, well, how bad do these people want to actually hire you, though? I mean, we all have the AI tools now. You could quickly write yourself up something to send back, start negotiating, start learning those skills. And yeah, this industry, a lot of people might not want to deal with that. But with those jobs that say, send me your rate, what's the comeback that we've all come up with? Well, what's your budget? And that's like an ongoing tug of war that somehow we never seem to win. Very rarely has it ever worked. I very rarely ever got a number when I've asked for their budget. That just doesn't seem to work, right? So you just send the craziest number immediately first, right? Like just start it high. It's all a gamble, right? And it doesn't matter because it's Vegas. You treat it like it's Vegas. It's literally the wild, wild west, right? So if they say, send me your rates, don't immediately start the race by cutting off your knees. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go in strong, baby. And so thinking about that, there's always this question of like, well, what is the rate? What do you charge? And I did a live stream a few weeks back that we literally got into it. We talked about rates, but I feel like because it was a live stream and it was a lot of live questions, and I think people just want a number, especially if you're new. Like if you're brand new, even if some people have been doing it for a couple years, they still want to know like, hey, what do I charge? I see it all the time in the Facebook groups. I don't know what to charge. It's crazy to me the amount of people, and even like clients and producers, it's crazy the amount of people that think that there's just one standard number for all. And that's just not the way it is. And I think that's really where that question of, well, what's your budget came from. In order to give you a rate that makes sense, well, we need to sit down and talk about this for a minute. What exactly are you trying to create? And who is behind it, right? Is this a State Farm commercial that's going to be national and all over streaming on, is this a commercial that people are going to see during a YouTube video? Is this a commercial that you're going to see when you go to the movies before the movie starts? What kind of commercial are we talking about here? Like a public broadcast commercial? Like, is your mom and dad going to see this commercial when they're watching the local news? We need to know this stuff. And, this is really where your agents and management team kind of do all this negotiating for you. But in the wild, wild west non-union world, certainly in the crew world, you got to figure all this shit out yourself. It's very hard for a cinematographer to get an agent if you haven't gone to the AFI, right? Let's just be real here, It's quite difficult, right, to learn how to navigate this shit yourself. Well, the advantage of someone like me, because I do feel like I am unique of coming from that acting world and working under W-9s for so long, ever since I was a teenager, like I've always kind of understood this thought process of like, no, I am a business. And I think that's why a lot of people thought like I was crazy when I first started getting into cinematography back in 2017. Like people were like, well, this net 30s, net 90s, this is what it is. And I'm like, well, why? At what point did you all get together and say, yep, this is what we're going to do? It's like, you don't have to do that. You're not actual employees of any of these companies that are hiring you. You're just not. You're a W-9. You're a contractor. They are contracting you out, right? That's literally what you're called. So you're not an employee. We don't all just have to bend over and take it and go, yeah, I guess I'll get paid in 90 days. Meanwhile, the video's out like fucking a week later, right? Like that's bullshit, right? That's the equivalent of your mechanic doing a shit ton of work for you and then saying, yeah, you can take the car and pay me in 90 days. Do you know of any mechanic that would ever allow you to do that? No, you just don't. So why, in what universe, what happened? I want to know what happened to all of our freelance people where they were like, well, this is just how they want to do it, so we all just got to bend over and take it. It's like, no, you don't have to do that, right? Like, you are literally an individual freelance, individual contractor, right? You are not an employee of them. So I think what happened long ago is people got that mixed up in their brains and they started acting like employees. It's like, no. You are two businesses trading services. Like if I'm State Farm and I'm going to hire you to be my cinematographer or whatever, they might try to boss you around and push you around like you're now an employee of them, but don't let them do that. Do not let them do that. And the only way to, set your foot down is you come in already with your little legal agreements and your way of thinking and operating like you are a brick and mortar business. Like operate like you do understand what W-9 is. And you can negotiate these things. Well, the problem is that it's become the social norm in our world for so long now that you'll never hear back from them, right? We all know that. That's what happens. But it started somewhere. It'll never go away. That's literally how we got to the level of net 90s. We went from net 30s to net 90s. How did that happen? Because they're just going to keep taking and taking and taking. The problem is all the non-commercial jobs, now they want to do that shit too, right? And it's like, no. Right? Because the corporations, right? All of your corporate videos, your commercials that you're doing, whether they're union or non-union, they have gotten away with it, right? And because, well, you trust them more because you're like, well, it's a corporation. And you hope. That's even more fucked up. Why are we giving the most leeway to the ones with the most money? That's backwards. They have the money. We know they have the money. They have more than enough money. Cherry pick your favorite company like Chipotle or something, right? Before they even think of the job, they have way more money to create just this one little commercial, right? So don't think like, oh, we don't have the money or we got to wait for this. That's all just jargon bullshit. They have the money. Right? They have more money than is needed in petty cash to pay everybody for the goddamn fucking commercial, right? That's how these corporations, I don't understand. In my brain, in my little Peabody brain, I'm like, how did this happen? And the only thing I can think of is that not enough freelancers were acting like true contractors, right? They were acting like employees. That is my theory on how all of this happened. As the biggest downside of this, we still get around to this thing of, well, what do we charge? Like some people just don't know. And again, it's not just one number across the board, and this is why. You're not going to be able to get what you get from State Farm and then turn around and go, hey, this music video over here, I think I'm going to charge them the same thing now. And that's what happens, right? As soon as you start working those jobs that take fucking 90 days to pay you, you don't forget like, wow, especially if it is a big corporate thing, especially if it's a union corporate thing, you're like, oh, it's big money. If it's a union commercial, look out. We all know that is the most amount of money you will ever receive is a union commercial. And you go, ooh, now I know what I'm worth. That's the worm that gets planted in your brain. Or just think of any job where you got paid the most, right? Regardless of what it is. And that once that seed is planted in your brain, then you start thinking like, yeah, this is my worth. This is what I'm going to start charging now, right? We've all fallen victim to that. And then you just start giving that number to everybody. And then some time goes by and you're like, I'm not working as much as I used to. You're like, what's going on here? And it's because there's not just one catch-all number to give. Again, it's freelance. That would be the equivalent of like, of a real contractor in the construction world, right? Like someone like a concrete guy, like charging the same amount of money for every job, regardless of how huge the building is. So these people that are like, well, just give me your rate. It's like, well, I don't know. How big do you want your house to be? Like how big do you want your house to be? That should be the question back. If I give you a rate for a 1-bedroom apartment and then next thing I know, then I hear what your project is and it's a fucking, it's a Hilton hotel, right? Well, that's a big difference than building a 1-studio apartment, right? That's what I'm talking about. That film video production is the same shit. It's the same exact thing. And also it's good to know who the client is, right? Because that is important to think about. And not just in terms of this bullshit of all like, oh, I really want to work with P.T. Anderson or whoever it is, even though that would be amazing. Like Wes Anderson. Look, we all love Wes Anderson movies. Why do all the actors always publicly say like they don't get paid anything to be in a Wes Anderson movie? It's like, wait, what? Like, that's a little weird to me. It's like, well, then who is getting the money then? Like, that's just weird to me. Now, look, if you're an actor, I get it. Actors already overly paid. Oh, shit. But the crew, I really hope that's what's not going on with the crew. I hope the crew aren't operating that same way. Like, oh, we just get to work with Wes Anderson, so I guess we just won't get paid that as much as we usually do. That's bullshit. Because again, where is that money going to then? So like if Wes Anderson is getting a fatter check and getting more notoriety, everyone should. Now, the actors certainly will, minus the fatter check, but they'll certainly be getting more notoriety for being in a Wes Anderson movie, but the crew aren't. The crew shouldn't be working for less, right? Now, I'm not saying that happens on Wes Anderson movies. I don't know what the crew gets paid on Wes Anderson movies, but we do know that, the equivalent thing could happen with smaller known people, right? You see it all the time in the forums or the job posts. You get to work with so-and-so or whatever. It's like, who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I'm that guy, right? I just don't care about it that much. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's like more ambition to want to get that job and more fight to be in that job, but it's like, I'm not gonna like work for free. But again, just know there's not one solid number. What does all that have to do with? Well, it is all kind of leading up to this. It was a revelation that became apparent to me just within the past year, maybe within the past couple of years. And because of some of those bigger jobs that I mentioned earlier, where it planted a seed, because of those corporate jobs, you know, my corporate clients have always paid the most. Like, I've always gotten way more money on a corporate job, and it's just because it's a corporation, they have the money. So something that happened was Marianne was working, being a producer's assistant on a series of independent films. Over and over, she noticed a pattern that the cinematographers, some of them weren't getting paid at all. Or if they were, it was just enough to have their kit covered. And these were cinematographers that were known and are still known here in the LA area, right? Like, they have representation and you know, they're legit. And it's like, well, now what's going on here? You know, and that really started making me think, damn, is Wes Anderson's DP working for free or a really low rate just because he's always Wes Anderson's DP and he just wants to keep being Wes Anderson's DP? Could that be? Like, are people that jazzed to work with other people? There is a lot of truth to that. There is a lot of arms going around shoulders in Hollywood. There's no doubt about that. And that's why nepotism runs rampant in Hollywood. Yeah, I mean, it's always been it's, dare I say, a disease here in Los Angeles, in real Hollywood. You know, it's like, it's all in who you know. And it is. I mean, even me, like, literally, I think like 70% of the work I get, it's always from someone that I know or via someone I know, right? A chain reaction effect, you know. We work on projects that are so collaborative, hopefully, if you're on the right ones, they're so collaborative that you want to keep collaborating with those same people. So it could be that, or I started thinking about it more, and it got me thinking about this whole like corporate commercial world versus the narrative world. And it's like, yeah, we can't be treating the narrative world like how we treat these corporations and commercials. Like, that's just not a right way of thinking about it. You're all sitting there going, well, duh. But I'm talking about us as freelancers, right? At our small scale, at whatever tier you're on that tier list of cinematography, and however long you've been doing it, whatever. Like, I think like what I've seen and kind of what I've been programmed to think is like, yeah, I just have these set rates. I have my rate card. And then it's like, well, wait. Now I need a commercial rate card. Okay. Wait. Now I need a music video rate card. Oh, hold on. Now I need a corporate, industrial rate card. Oh, now I need a narrative rate card. Well, what kind of budget is it? Well, now I need ultra low budget rate card, narrative. And then, oh, maybe I should have a web series rate card. It's really what it comes down to. It's like, you have to have a specialized rate card for every single individual project. And when it comes specifically to the ultra low budget narrative world, right? So now we're talking about this huge pot, low budget independent feature films, short films, web series, pilots, music videos. All of these things kind of trickle down. And what you'll notice, they all have one thing in common. They don't have anything to sell other than an idea, or, some sort of philosophy, right? Or just selling you an escape. You can't say that about commercials and corporations. We all know they got shit to sell. It's literally the whole point of commercials, right? In corporations, they may not, when you're doing like a corporate video, it's usually like an internal HR training video, like for their website, employee website or something, right? That's not technically selling something, but we know that they're a corporation. They do sell shit at a global level, most of them, right? You can't get poisoned by this corporate commercial world and go, yeah, dude, they paid me, I don't know, we'll pull out a number out of the rainbow. They say, wow, I had a $2,500 day rate just to go DP that commercial, right? And then you start getting poisoned and you go, well, now this feature film that wants to hire me, I found out their budget is $150K. All right, I'm going to take a percentage of that. But really, I need to at least be making my new minimum day rate of $2,500. It's like, that's the disconnect right there. Finally, to this thing of like, well, what does this have to do with DPs working for the least amount? So let's really dive in. Let's think about that. Well, if these are independent narrative pieces or even music videos, right? These are 100% going to lead you on a series. Usually what happens is you end up working with those same groups of people again and again and again. You're creating true art because you're not trying to sell anything. You know what I mean? You're making little movies. even music videos, are little movies, they're little short films, right? So it's a very different world. In that area, you could really call yourself an artist. Now, I know people get mad when I say commercial cinematographers and commercial people should not be calling themselves filmmakers, right? Like I say that crazy shit all the time. But what I mean by that is that, now don't get me wrong, we've all seen some amazing storytelling commercials, but they're still selling shit, right? That's what I mean. Like, to me, films aren't selling a product, right? They're just selling an escape. You're able to free your mind because you're getting entertained. If you think about that, it's like, okay, well, that's one reason why, the DP might say, hey, man, this is a group of people I always want to be with. And now that all makes sense. I was shitting on it earlier with the Wes Anderson thing, but it's like, hey, if, think about it, those guys are consistently working with Wes Anderson, right? So it's like, okay, but there is that little part of me that's like, but don't they want to like be fed? We know Wes Anderson's getting fed. We know that the distributor's getting fed and the producers are getting fed. So don't we want to be fed as the DP? And don't we want to? And it's like, yeah, it's great. You get to have the notoriety of saying like, yeah, man, I don't know. This is the pickle with that. But also, I think I think about myself and the amount of ultra low budget narrative stuff that I've done, because you guys know that's primarily the world I live in. Somehow, even though I've only been shooting since 2017, somehow I've managed to shoot over 50 short films and 3 feature films. Some of them are like really wild, right? The one time I was working on one and someone said, so did that movie ever come out? I said, I don't know. And they said, so is that just like a money laundering scheme or what? So, this gives you an idea of some of the projects I've been on, but then I've done some really, really fun, cool stuff too, So, but when I think about that world, it's like, I am the cinematographer and I am getting the most accolades from this project, whatever it is, right? So if it is a really cool music video that I'm attached to, or if it is like a feature, a film, there's been plenty of short films that I've done that have gotten huge numbers, The Chair being one of them, and that thing has over 8 million views. I always get people saying, wow, you shot The Chair. That happens to me all the time. And then I think about that and it's like, well, my buddy Tristan, he was like the entire crew on that, like he really was. Like Tristan was like a one-man show on that job. He was literally the lighting, he was his own key grip, he was everything. And then he was even like the second AC too. Like, the whole crew on that, other than the sound guy, the entire lighting and camera department on The Chair, you might be able to tell, but it was just like me, the AC, shout out to Tony, and Tristan as everything else, so it's like, but I think about that, I'm like, well, Tristan's not, getting accolades from working on The Chair. I don't know, he might. They actually did pull him in and he was in one of the scenes at the end. That used to happen a lot because Tristan also acts. So, but anyways, it's like, but I just think about that, right? So I think about that with those jobs where the DPs weren't getting paid, or if they were just like covering the rental kit fee for their Arri Alexas or something, which it was an Alexa Mini. And I thought, wow, he's just making sure he gets his day rate on his camera package. And that was it, And so I kind of got into that mindset. I got into operating like that, thinking about that on the narrative world. Because it's like, yeah, why shouldn't I? Because I'm getting all the accolades. Because I used to think like, why is the gaffer getting paid more than me, And then it's like, dude, why, you quickly have to think like, dude, the gaffer is doing so much work. And he is not going to get nearly as much accolades from this project that you are, you douchebag, as the director of photography. These are conversations that I've had in my head, because it's like, you think like, well, I'm the DP, you start getting that ego thing. And it's like, nah, that's not really the way to do it, man. That's not really going to help anyone. It's like, you got to be real with yourself and go, hey, man, if I am on this project as the director of photography, there's no one else on the crew that's going to get the accolades like me. Like, for instance, shameless plug here. I know this is lame, but I got a friggin' trophy for being a DP on a short film from the Hollywood Real Independent. That's crazy to me. I'm like, why though? Oh, it's not for best DP. It's because it won best dramatic short. But they gave the DP an award. It's like, wow. So you're like, well, yeah, I guess I contributed to it becoming the best dramatic short, didn't I? Because I was the DP. You don't see the gaffer getting this sent to his house, or anyone else, certainly not Tristan, if you think about it. So it's like, yeah, it's like you're going to get the most accolades from this project. And honestly, you're going to get more work from it. The crew, well, that's on to you if you want to bring the same exact crew every time. And usually I do. I try to. Sometimes you get on jobs where the producer already hired the whole crew. That's weird. We don't need to talk about that, though. Just think about all that stuff next time someone asks you, so what's your rate? Right? There is so much more that goes into it. And we know I have a rate card hidden on my website. It's a private link of my website, but it's like, God, I hate sending that out. And I hate playing the what's your budget tug of war. Just try to find out about the project. That's what I do. I don't say what's your budget. I ask, what size building are you trying to make? Tell me more about your project. Right? I want to know everything about the project. So that's kind of my, run around. And I guess the final word there is like, after I switched my brain mode on that, I'll work on projects. If someone drops a name, I go, oh, okay. There was a time when I wouldn't do that. Because I was thinking like how I was saying, thinking, like, oh, who's that? I don't care. But it's like, nah, man, this is Hollywood. You can't get in that wicked mindset like me. But I think I was an anomaly, like in a minority when it comes, because I think most people would jump on a project for dirt cheap if it was with someone they really wanted to work with. But in the beginning, I just wasn't like that, but now I am. I've kind of switched to that. And a lot of it is because thinking about this whole idea that, I am going to get literally the most awards out of this than the rest of the crew, and so I think we need to step back and think about that in the narrative world. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. This does not apply to the commercial and corporate world, right? We do not want to give them any favors, any bonuses. We don't want to give them anything. Right? We actually need to flip the script on them and get more from them, right? Honestly, and get paid quicker. Anyways, guys, we'll see you on the live streams every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Shout out to our YouTube members. There are exclusive members-only videos on here that I guess don't actually show when you look at my channel. I don't know. I thought that was the whole point of having members only. You can look at the videos that you don't get to watch. I know that's kind of gatekeepy, but it's only 99 cents or some shit like that. And then the Patreon we got going on too, and I think it's only like $5 over there. And the Patreon videos are different, very different than the YouTube member videos. Not always very different. Sometimes it's about the same project, but different avenues, different ways of thinking. The best way to support the show is just hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments how bad you hate my face, and hit the likes or the dislikes. We'll see you later.